So, should we start this Gothic script, the Blackletter script? Because it's just the three of us, but everyone then can catch up. All right. So, I'll give you a little bit of background of Gothic, and I am today thinking that I will first show you all the stuff that you can do with the Gothic script. And I will share the exemplar with you and allow you to experiment with writing the letters yourself, because it's not really that tough. It's one of the, I mean, the whole design of the script is so simplified that it's very easy to pick up. So you should not go by how complicated it looks. Just follow the instructions. There's only like 3 instructions: how to hold the pen, and how to make the stroke, and where to make the letters. That's it. There isn't more than that. And those are easily adjusted things. In how to hold the pen, it's how do you rotate the pen. How to make the stroke, it's the angle and length of the stroke. And then where to make the letters, it's about spacing it accurately. So, second, let me move to the phone camera. So last week we did this script where we just made arbitrary lines as baseline, X line, and so on. For this script, we can make a very specific height of the letters. So I'm going to show you how to create these letter forms in a very tight set of measurements. Oh, Susan is trying to connect, I think.
Hi, Aditi.
Hi. Were you having trouble connecting?
No, I was on another device. I was just getting breakfast in place.
Oh, okay.
I'm fine. I'm here now.
All right. Okay. So this is the script that we're going to do today. We are just going to do the minuscule letters. We will do the capital letters next week. It's very easy. This script is just a matter of, like I was saying, holding the pen, making a stroke in a certain direction and length, and placing the letters next to each other. So let me explain everything to you first about how this goes. It becomes a lot easier, and then I feel I can just show you the exemplar and you will be able to write the letters yourself. So these letters all have a certain proportion. I'm going to show you a couple of versions of this script so that you can see that this is not just one script at all. When you come across a Gothic script like this, which the broad term for that would be Blackletter or Textura Quadrata or Textura, you will come across a variety of styles. There is, I mean, some are narrow, some are wider, some have curves in their strokes, some are deliberately kept straight, but all of them are still Gothic and still Blackletter. And these are why they are, I guess, called Gothic is because the time that they were invented, which is around the 12th century, the prevalent, I guess, aesthetic was of these kinds of narrow shapes. So you would find shapes like these even in art especially in architecture, and then all of that is translated into lettering as well. The reason for that is also linked, and it's quite beautiful. Much of this lettering was used to create Bibles, and the Bibles would be then in the same buildings which had this kind of conical architecture. So it made sense that aesthetically everything is streamlined. And I like that a lot of European design you will see grabs its forms from various aspects within that field. So if you are a church, if this is what you are, this is what you look like, this is what you speak like, and this is what your speech will look like. All of that somehow seems to be connected. Now, in the writing of these letters, you can use practically any tool. So imagine at the birth of this script, which is definitely not the birth of lettering, by the way. This is at least 3,000 or 4,000 or even 5,000 years after people learned to write. So writing was not new, but tools were very scarce because not everyone was literate, not everyone needed to read or write. Though by this time, the need for writing had expanded quite a bit since 800 AD, after this King Charlemagne decided he wanted to spread Christianity throughout Europe. So he got a monk to make these, a guy named Alcuin, to make a script that everyone could understand. And from about 800 AD till this time, which is the 12th century, between 1100 and 1200, which is 300 years since he started this movement, the spread of Christianity through books and Bibles and setting up of monasteries had begun. And contrary to popular belief that this age is termed as the Dark Ages by historians, they had wonderful art. So it always seems as if the Dark Ages, there was no art and people were suffering and there was just disease and whatnot, is not entirely true, and it's not universally true for Europe. Calligraphy really flourished around that time. And so through one and the other, so did religion. Now, when you have to write these scripts, the tool you use will depend upon where you live. If you have, obviously, you're not going to use heavy metallurgy to make the one nib or one pen that one person in a village of 1,000 people is going to need. So the best bit about this script is that it's extremely versatile and you can use absolutely anything with which you can create a flat edge, dip it in liquid ink enough so that the ink adheres to that edge and make a line. So you will find that this script can be written by people holding even a broom. So if you have one of those flat brooms, you can dip it in water and you can use that to make the script also, and it'll look fantastic, exactly like this. So that's the one reason that this script became so easy to replicate. You could write with a quill, you could write with a bamboo stick if you wanted, you could write with a metal piece. And even today, there is something called a cola pen, which is made using old cans. I'll show you a sample of that if I have, which is just a piece of foil or tin, which is kept together like this so that you have a flat edge and it's flexible, and the foil is rolled so that that holds the ink, and then you can make lines using that. So you dip it in ink, the foil holds the ink, and then you can just make a line with, of course, there's a certain cut, so you can decide on how thick the line goes. It's beautiful. So I'll, at some point, I will show you how to carve that for yourself also out of something like this. I have these disposable spoons, which I don't dispose because I can carve them and make them into nibs and holders. So let me start with showing you how to do this, because then I can show you the whole meaning of how that script is created. So let's imagine I want to learn how to write this script. I have my ink. This I have. And this ink also, as we've seen that documentary, remember on Sumi ink, you just take charcoal and you grind it and you mix it with some water and whatnot, and then you get ink. So ink also easy to make. Then I'll just take my medieval knife and chop off this piece of wood that I found somewhere in the forest and create a nice sharp edge on one side. So all I need to do is make sure that this is a nice flat edge. Now this is going to look different from the pens that you have. We have those oblique cut pens, right? But I have cut this nib straight, not like this. So I've found a way to at least cut a nib to this flat edge. And let me test this out. Hopefully this will work. I'll start making lines. Absolutely clean lines. And it seems to hold ink pretty well also. Now, though I have cut my nib as a flat edge, I can always still use this to make letters, holding it either flat. So you can make something like this. And these also can make for very quirky letters, very contemporary. But the whole thing changes the moment I tilt the nib to 45 degrees. Because now doing the same action, I suddenly have a stylized line. It's not as basic as this. And I can use this line now to make better letters. And I only need keep my nib at the same angle. So much so that I could probably work on this like Lego bricks also. I could make any stroke in any order, and yet because of the angle, they will fit into each other exactly that way. All the measurements will match. So this is the basic form of the letter. Just give me 1 second. I need to take this call. Okay, so I just need my phone again for a second. So till I come to the next part, I want you to try and make lines with your pen in this manner. So you hold your pen in such a way that the tall end of this oblique chisel is towards your thumb and the short end is towards your pointer finger. Keeping the edge of the pen flat against the paper and at a 45-degree angle, try to make a line that comes perpendicular to the bottom edge of your paper. So perfectly vertical line so that you can get a tall end on top right and a long end on the bottom left. Now, when you also make these lines, you can try to make the lines exactly the same width apart as the width of your nib. So test if when you keep the nib at the same angle between the lines, is it the same? See, this would be too close. We don't want that. And this would be too far. We don't want that. They should all end at the same spot and also be the same distance apart as the, so these tall ends must also come all the way here. And this distance must be the distance you need or you will keep when your nib is slightly tilted. So just make a whole row of those lines on a paper. You don't need lines or anything, or just on a blank paper is also fine. When you're comfortable with making these straight lines, you can make lines with the same angle, but you can make them horizontal as well. The vertical lines might look slightly wider than the horizontal lines. That's quite okay. Now, when I'm going to make letters with whichever pen I'm using, I can make them. Let's say I've made the letter O. How tall should I make the letter? So I can make it like this. But is this too tall or should I make it like this? So this is a valid question. How do you know what height of letters we should use? So imagine you are living in the 11th century. Standardized measurements did not exist at that time. So how do you measure whatever you're writing in such a way that you and your village and somebody miles away or thousands of miles away will be writing the same script, and you don't need to have the same scale, or you don't even know the concept of a unified measuring system. But there's one thing that both of you will definitely use, and I love this problem solving that they did in the past. It is as if those guys just sat down and said, there is something that we all have that everyone is using for writing of the script. And we are going to make that the tool with which we are going to create our own scale. So you use your own pen to make horizontal strokes like this. Now I'm keeping my pen exactly upright so I can make a small line like this. towards the right. And then I'll make one below that, which can be in the other direction. So now I have measured a space that is 2 pen widths tall. And I can go to 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Now, whether I write with this pen, or whether I write with this pen, or whether I write with another smaller pen, this measurement will remain constant. So I have a smaller pen here. I can do the same thing. 1 pen width, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So with every pen, your pen width will change, but the proportion remains same. It's a brilliant built-in system. Once you have this, you can then make your baseline. So you can make sure that your letters all sit in the same place. I'm making one for this scale as well. And then you can start writing your letters. Very basic letter. And with all of these, you can just use the scale as a measure. The first part of the letter starts from here, 1 pen width down, and still 1 pen width up, and build the same system that you want to make the letters in big or small. And they will look exactly like a magnified or a microscopic version of the same letter. Now, after this is done, there's something about how your pen works beyond just measuring the letters. And that is, even with just something as limited as a flat-edged pen, you can do more than just make a line like this. Keeping the angle the same, I can make a line like this. And you get a nuance to the line. The same angle, you can do this. So a lot of things are possible with just this pen. And it does not have to do anything. I think this is the laziest or the most hardworking pen you will find. It just needs to be steady, and hajar things are possible. So the reason I'm showing you this is to allow you to play with the pen a little bit. Many of these strokes have features like these or something like this, where you might be tempted to really dance with the pen around. You really don't need to. So something like a Y over here is written merely like this. I will give you the ductus for this. This has become too tall, but nonetheless. Oh yeah, because it's 6. I'm keeping my pen exactly at the same orientation and just making a short curve this way to create my Y. If I were to make this in pen, it would be just this. That's it. But because of the shape of the nib, it just looks so elaborate that you might be tempted to really work hard and do something like this. And it's totally unnecessary. So some of the strokes that you'll find here, like for example, even just the A, you'll see that there is a little bit of a curve in this A versus this A. And that's because instead of making a line come straight down, I will make it like this. Just extend the line outward a little bit, create a small serif, then go again a little outward, and then come back in. Make this a little rounded, go back and forth a little bit, and then also end with one edge of the pen to create a nice exit stroke. So you can make your letters very elegant. And each scribe, I suppose, started adding some sort of extra bit to their letters, so that finally we land up with different styles, not only of the black letter itself, like these, but they evolved into other letter forms, which all fall under black letter. But as you can see, the rotunda is much more simplified and modern looking than the previous scripts. So this is where it began, going into Batard in certain regions, staying fracture in some regions, also added by another script called Schwabecker, which was used for maybe like the italicized version of this, and then going to rotunda and often going back to the fracture. So, first part of theory is over. For us now, I would like you to do the following. Start off with making one line on the left edge. From the top, you can leave about 1 centimeter and draw an edge on the upright, in the upright direction. Just make sure that it is straighter. And the reason for leaving 1 centimeter from top exactly is because later on we are going to need to verify if our measurement of the scale is accurate. So at that time, you don't want to be left with an arbitrary starting point. Now, on this side, we are going to make a scale. Whichever pen you are using to write the letters, use the same pen to make the scale. So if you have a pen like this is what you're using, then make the scale with just the same pen. You cannot change pens for the scale and then write with a different pen, because this would be like trying to make a dress for yourself by using your sister's measurements. All right. So hold the nib such that you can make a flat line and then you press it. I'm going to try it with this other pen because the ink on the felt tip pen is really blotting. You make short lines on either side. You can also make short lines in one direction, long and short. But when I taught this earlier, and Elaine was in that class, and then later on I taught the other scale, but she said this one was clearer. So we'll use this. So you have to carefully place the pen mark one below the other. Do not overlap and do not leave a gap. So compared to the other modern scripts that we are doing in the calligraphy class, the engrossers and the copper plate and all, when you see this kind of measurement and scientific approach for lettering, you can really appreciate how much time was spent in devising a foolproof method for lettering. This is another, I guess, in the whole lineage of Roman letters, that a system built into the letter form itself, made for better engineering, literally. Now, to be on the safe side, I would recommend measuring a particular uh, set of lines. Okay, so the scale we use for today's script is going to be a 2-5-2 scale, which means that starting from the top, we're going to draw a line at 2 pen widths, then another line at 5, then a line at 2, then a line at 5. So we're just going to keep doing a 2-5-2-5-2-5 guide sheet. Now, I don't know if your measurements will have been accurate. So to be on the safe side, to make sure that your lines are parallel, mark at least the first line properly, which will be at 1 centimeter from the top. And then you can either use something like this roller scale, making the next few lines, or keep measuring. So this is about, I think, 6 or 7 mm. I measured this. And I'm pressing my scale and bringing it down. Hopefully, it will be parallel. But I often measure and then move forward. So this will be 6 mm. Logically, it should seem as if your, in this case, my nib width is given. It is 3 mm. So if I make a scale with 5 nib widths, it should be 1.5 mm. But depending upon the paper, upon the pressure you put, you might have more or less on your actual measurement. 5, so mine is 1.6. So difference of maybe half to 1 mm is not significant. But if you find that in some places your 5 pen widths measures 1.5 mm, I'm just giving you an example, and somewhere else it is measuring 1.8 or 2 centimeters, there's a chance that you have either left a gap between your uh, pen widths in the scale, or you have crunched it up together. Something could be going wrong. Now, to make life simpler, if you're doing a big project, you can get a scale like this, which has got more lines marked. So they are at, what measurement are they at? About 3 mm, I think. Yeah, so 3 mm lines apart, which is the same measurement as my scale. So all I need is to maintain this parallel and I'll be able to draw lines much quicker. So even if they aren't accurate, at least I can use this as a guide. 3, 4, 5. Now, the whole point of this exercise is you should not need to use a scale. So in that case, in order to get parallel lines, you can make the same scale on the other side. Make the scale on both sides of the paper and then just count 2, 5, 2, 5, 2 on both sides and keep making the lines. Now I'll continue making these lines as we go ahead, but I'd like to start off with first making, or at least showing you how to start practicing the first few letters. Now we'll start with the letter O, and I'm going to give you a ductus. So this will be just the arrowheads to show you how to create that letter form, the order and the direction of the strokes. And then I'm going to show you the ductus itself, and I'm going to leave you to throw you to the wolves or into the deep end of the pool and let you figure it out for yourself. So in this scale now, here are the few strokes that I can show you that you use like Lego bricks and put everything together. So you have something called a stem, which is just a line that goes straight down. This is a stem. Then you have a diamond, which is holding the pen at the 45-degree angle and pulling it down at a negative 45-degree angle so that you get a perfect diamond shape. When you put all this together, you will get a diamond, stem, diamond. This is like the basic fundamental building block of the letter form. Now we can extend this and make a diamond, stem, diamond, and extend this line a little to the side with the left tip to create a foot. And you put this diamond on top and you get the letter I. The ductus for this letter is fairly simple. You have stroke 1, 2, 3, and 4.
So you first draw the first diamond and then we draw the line, or we draw the line first and then we draw two diamonds?
First the diamond, then the main line, then the diamond, and then the foot. Okay, can you try this?
Aditi, the angle for the diamond and the stem is different or it's the same?
The angle of the pen is 45 degrees and it's same throughout. You don't change it at all. You make the
How?
diamond, the width of the diamond shape is going to be more than the width of the stem. Just a
How does
little
that
bit.
happen?
Just because, see, if I hold the pen at its flattest and make a
Huh?
line, I get a line that will show, say, the 3 mm width because I'm
Huh?
holding the pen flat.
Huh?
When I hold the pen at the same angle, but I make the line straight, the 3 mm will all get stacked differently. So
Oh, okay.
I'll show you how this works. It's just like changing the angle to push something in. So say I have a small, like a narrow strip through which something has to pass. This
Huh?
is the something.
Huh?
It won't go in from here
Huh?
because it's at its
Huh?
horizontal side. But the moment I tilt it, it can go
Huh?
in. So it makes a narrow path. It's
Hmm.
just regular, I mean, it's mechanics. Okay, now if you put these two together, but extend the line a little more, this is how you can make the next letter. So diamond, stem. I've stopped the stem a little higher. Diamond. Extend the line just a little bit with the left tip. You can also go flat. It'll do the same thing. And now I will make the next stroke in such a way that the space between these two should be about 1 pen width. This is a script actually I would recommend should be taught in schools at the 3rd standard level. It is so logical.
Aditi ma'am, maybe I'm struggling with this when you have a diamond,
Yes.
but then you bring it down.
Yeah.
So it looks like there is a slight of a space. I mean,
Space. Where do you see the space? On the top diamond?
yeah, I mean, where I draw the diamond and then
Yes.
I bring the straight line, there
Right.
I'm struggling whether my pen should be 45 or how do I keep the pen?
Oh, the pen should be 45 everywhere. But
Every,
I'll tell you what is happening. We need to overlap the strokes.
hmm.
If this is your diamond shape,
Hmm.
you need to make the next shape. The angle remains the same, see. But the next shape comes straight down through the diamond.
Through the diamond. Okay. Okay.
And
Yeah.
then the next shape also remains on the diamond like this.
Okay. Hmm.
So let me see if I can make it any clearer. Oh, it's a horrible diamond. It should have just stopped here. This takes a little while because if you are doing this, if you make a diamond, here are the things that can go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm doing. Yeah.
So you get a space here also and here also,
Yeah.
because the overlaps are not intact. And the other thing that can go wrong is you make consecutive strokes. And both these would be wrong. So they have to sit one on top of the other. And if to make life simple, maybe I can show you a cross section of this. Here you have your diamond shape, very clean. Now you need to make the next stroke such that it comes out from either side of the diamond evenly. So it helps to keep your pen in the same place in the center of the diamond. Now, is it exact center, thoda upar niche? You have to figure that out. And now again, look at the alignment of this. Keep your pen again at this angle. The tip of the pen somewhere in the center of your existing stem, and you should be able to create the second diamond below. So then you don't know why this alignment problem happens. Okay, I'm putting this ductus in front of you. Tell me if you can see this clearly. Would you like to try the next few letters, N, M, V, and W? So you guys try making it first, and I'll make it afterwards.
Okay.
Aditi, can you speak?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Still a little struggle with the diamond shape.
Yeah,
It's becoming
yeah.
just longer. It's longer than is necessary. Try making it
Longer than is necessary, na?
yeah.
Huh.
Try
Okay.
making it slightly shorter. And if you
Okay.
want,
Huh.
try making the stem first and then making the diamond on top and bottom. At least for the first one.
Huh. Okay, fine. All right. I'll try that.
How is this looking, Aditi?
Second. Okay. The M, there's a little bit of an issue. I will show you. The rest are looking like they're on the right track. Yes. Okay. Where is Ritika gone? She's dropped off? I didn't see. Oh, there she is. Sorry, I was seeing Ritika's and I was commenting on Susan's. Sorry. Susan, can I see yours? Okay, that comment was for you, Ritika. And Susan, I will see yours.
Can you see it now?
Yeah. Huh. Okay. So a similar problem, and it could be that the pen is blotting. So let's see if I can solve that for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so N would be again like this. So I need you to keep your shapes very crisp. Don't make them too big and don't put too much pressure. So you have this, and we are making very nuanced lines. Now, right next to this tip, I will keep my pen so that I can make a small narrow line going to the side. Angle is the same as my diamond shape, but then it moves a little to the side, comes straight down and makes this. Now, when I make the stem, the second stem, I come a little inward so that I get a tiny wedge shape sticking out to make my letter look a little sophisticated. Again, see, a little outward, but my stem will come inward because I need to maintain the space between the letters. Now, this will come a little too narrow, but this will still work because it's the letter M. If I made this for N, it might look a little too narrow. So the difference is in how far I take the arch. I've kept the arch narrower over here. I've made it wider here. And this could just be my own muscle memory. Then U has already been made. W. Now in this case, I take one line up like that because I want to connect. So I make a foot like we made for I. Though I suppose traditionally that might not be required because you're in danger sometimes of adding extra space here. W and V. So these are fairly simple. It's versions of the same line. And I suspect I could make them slightly wider if it becomes becoming too narrow. But can you see how lopsided this looks? Not really pretty. So you want to avoid that. But now there are versions in which you will see something like this happen. Sorry, even more. Or Wait, show you another version of this. Something like this, because you don't want to keep it boring. So you'll see something like this also, and a whole variety of these depending upon application. And they're often interchangeable, but you should know that now, 100 years, not 100, 1,000 years after the invention of the script, when you interchange, you're probably using something that some Germans wrote, and then you use something that the French wrote. So historically, a script could be all over the place, like one big, I don't know, Delhi heart of food. But for your script, you can choose whichever one you find more aesthetically pleasing. Right. So you get the idea, right? You want to continue with the next, because I would rather that you do this yourself and then I can give you tips. That way, whenever you come across an exemplar of a broad edge pen, you are not dependent on anyone to tell you how should I proceed. Okay, now here, these lines or this line are artificially created. So I'm going to show you the letter R and X, which have a little bit of these shapes.
Oh, that is an A? I
Yes.
thought that was a fancy R.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this is how the R and X will look. The R comes out right at the same place. It's like we are starting to make an N, but then the letter says, no, I changed my mind. I don't want to write anymore. And then with the tip of the pen, you come down and create this very elegant teardrop shape.
That's really pretty.
And then the same thing without the teardrop, but with some extra strokes. This can have a foot. I usually make a foot. A slightly extended ear. And then from the left side, just with the tip of the pen, you will extend a line outward, and you can make a small teardrop here as well. At halfway, you will draw a crossbar. This is an X. Now, if this looks short, I have seen versions where you can do a longer shape like this as well, just to balance it out. But X would very rarely come on its own to start a letter. So you could rely on the balance on the previous letter. Usually an A or an E, some kind of vowel. The same thing now can be done on a C as well. And those letters are based on the oval. So the oval begins here, not at the top like we've started with the diamond, comes to the waistline. And then from the top, you have a parallel letter, line, which comes and joins over here. So O, C, E, G, Q, D are all based on this shape. So this is 1, or 1 and 2 can be one stroke. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, another way that I make this is also to make a stroke like this sometimes. Start from the top because we're so used to that. Come down 45 degrees. Make this as your first stroke. Then to the right, and then make this your second stroke. And then you are assured of everything sitting and joining. But the danger is if you overshoot here or here, then you're stuck with a very wide O. You can't do anything about it. But try both, I'd say. One way or another, you either might work, both might work. And actually, to be honest, a lot of this is making errors and learning from errors. Because like all crafts, you don't, even at the highest expert level, unless you make a mark, you don't know whether that mark was appropriate or not. So try this technique, see if, don't compromise on the stroke though. That's one thing. So if you make the first stroke really long, then don't try to fit in the second stroke so that it sits on the baseline. So don't change or don't compromise on the integrity of the stroke to fit the letter to your, and allow your mistakes. So if you draw a line that's really long, for example, if I do this, by mistake, I make a letter for the O, I go all the way. I can't make a horizontal line here. I should continue to still make the O the way it should be drawn. It's completely compromised because my first stroke was wrong. But this is still, you still practice the strokes the way they should be, rather than saying, oh, now I've made the letter here, now I should make a horizontal line. Don't try to fit that. Adjust mat karna. Jugaad. Okay, do you want to try now? Try the others. I'll keep this in front of you. Hi.
I'm the only one today.
Online class is still on. You come early, no? No, no, this class at 11:30. The 10:30 is the Friday class.
Oh, but I messaged you yesterday.
Yeah, it is okay. Yeah, let me just. How's it going?
It's blotting more than it should, Prakriti. So I'm not getting those crisp lines, you know. So maybe I should consider using a using my Sumi ink only.
Yeah,
The flat,
Yeah.
the flat nib or something. Because this sketch pen is quite useless, especially if you slow down, get
What-
too slow.
Yeah.
which color are you using? Because the darker inks tend to be more blotty.
Oh, is it okay? Okay.
Hmm.
I'm using red and black and blue.
I think also the paper, if you use bond paper, is probably better.
Yeah,
right.
correct.
You're right. You're
That's
right.
right.
You're correct.
Lot more because I'm finding the same thing. This is like some kind of drawing paper, but
Ah,
yeah. And even though I'm using this, the
Hmm.
outline one, it's still
Yeah.
blotting a little bit.
So Alka, for this script now in the beginning, use a bigger nib, a wider nib.
The 3 point,
Yeah, three
I
would be.
was using,
Yeah, but you'll have to make a new scale.
yeah. Yeah, that's why since I'd made the scale with this, I just continued.
Okay, okay.
I thought 2 would be wide enough, but once I started using it, I realized it wasn't. So then I did-
Yeah, you'll see. It's much better to use a wider pen.
Aditi, how do you get this thing at the bottom of the P and the Q? The
Huh.
little extension.
Yeah. So that is a stroke like this. You come down like a normal stroke for P. And then you move a little to the side, just a little bit, not too much exaggerated. And then you, with again, the tip of your brush, you create an artificial shape that comes a little to the right and then moves up. And then also the last stroke of the P is very beautiful. It comes and sits right next to downstroke like that. It's quite unique.
And how do you do the top one for L? Like there's a V kind of.
It's the same thing. Let me show you. It's the same kind of shape. You start off with that 45-degree line, come a little to the left and, oh, I have no space there. Okay, I'm just going to finish because I started. It's too exaggerated, but let me do it here. So you have mostly a straight line on the left. So on the right. So on the left also you extend the line almost straight a little bit, and then just take this shape up and bring it to the center. You'll notice in the ductus as well, here's the stroke. It goes up and down. When you finish writing the script, please also write these two things. Write the tool that you used, whether it was this marker or whether it was your uni pin or whichever. If you have a measurement of the pen width, write the pen width. So in this case, this will be chisel 3.0. So I need to write that. And this script was made using a 35-degree angle, but the one that I've recommended for you is the same strokes in a 45-degree angle. So mention that as well. You need to have these two in place so that you can practice next time. So any place where you have variables, you need to note down whatever sample sheet you've made with, what were the conditions at that time, what pen you used and what angle you used it at. To go a little further, you can also say what paper you used. And if you don't have the guidelines drawn on this paper, if you have them elsewhere, then on the guideline also you need to write what script that guideline was used for. And on everything, please subtly put a date somewhere. Your practice sheets should have a date.
Did you share these, right, on the group?
Yes, yes.
Ali, go please.
Okay, now the second part of the theory where you're practicing this. This script was the one that was used for printing the first book on the printing press, the Gutenberg Bible. And there's a wonderful documentary. I might have shared it before. This is it was made by Stephen Fry. It's a two-part documentary in which he travels to Mainz, the town in which Gutenberg invented his printing press. He was not the inventor of printing per se, because printing had been done even in China many centuries before Gutenberg started printing. But his style of printing, which is called the movable type printing, that he definitely invented, literally from the tools that he had around in his village. It was a grape pressing device which would press grapes down to make wine, he used the same thing to press down inked letters onto paper. I have oversimplified it, but essentially that's what he did. And each of these letters uh, was cast in metal in what's called a foundry. So even today, when you design a font, say you're a font designer working in some company making all sorts of fonts like Arial and Helvetica, the company that makes those fonts is still called a foundry.
Oh,
It doesn't have any metal or steel or anything that they are foundering or founding, but it is still called a foundry.
okay.
So it would take up to a whole day to carve out one letter in metal, from which they would take a mold. And in that, there are two parts of the mold. One is called a matrix and one is called a patrix. So matrix is the hollow and the patrix is what comes out of that hollow. So there are two parts to that mold. And from the matrix, you keep making more and more and more. So the first part that from which the mold is made is the patrix. Then you have the mold and then you have all these type. And each of these type is built on a square, which is around this shape in such a way that only the letter is appears, I'm forgetting my words now, like embossed above the surface of the metal. And then you take all these metals and put them in a form, letters, and then you can apply ink on it. Or sometimes you just apply ink like this, and then this goes and prints on the paper. So this is how the mechanism of printing worked. It's fascinating. And I mean, you should watch the documentary at least like 20 times. On any given day, I love watching that documentary. So the amount of information that comes out from there about stuff that we do today, about how the world has changed since the invention of this printing, it's just absolutely mind-blowing.
What is it called, Aditi, the documentary?
I think it was called The Machine That Made Us by Stephen Fry. But you can just look at Gutenberg Press documentary, Stephen Fry, you should come to the same.
I recently came across a snippet where they mentioned that in these presses where they made, they had to adjust all, when you make a page, you adjust all the alphabets into a piece of space, rectangular, square, whatever, before you make an entire page that you can actually print. So these little, like what you're saying, metal pieces that had the letters, I don't know what they, yeah, the type. They were arranged in shelves.
Yes, yeah.
And the upper shelf was the capitals, and the lower shelf was the small letters. And that's why we have the uppercase and the
Lowercase. Yeah.
lowercase. Simply because they were shelves.
It's wonderful. You could just write a whole book on the kind of terminology that has come about because of the lettering.
If you see in a lot of these films where they show the newspaper printing press, like, something is happening, the news is getting printed, you see them where they are setting the type. And you can see
Yeah.
all those shells from where they are, taking over. It's a very fast thing, but they still actually use that.
Yeah. And also they can read mirror because
Yeah.
to set type in mirror.
Correct.
So it prints correctly. It's wonderful. I would have loved to work in something like that. It's a very dark, dingy, thankless job.
Yes.
And I was the first place that I was working, I did work in a printing press which had all of this. And unfortunately, that whole place burnt down some years later. So otherwise, I would have just got that whole unit to my house. I don't know where all this type has gone. I'm sure it has been melted and God knows people have thrown it away, thinking who's going to use it. Nobody asked me. Okay, so I'm going to share pictures of this with you. And if you want, I'm going to share a picture of a foundation hand also. I'll just show you how that looks. It's much simpler. It's not the same category. It's not a black letter script, but it also has an exemplar.
Oh,
It also
pretty.
has all the details you need. I want you to just practice writing another script which has the same format, the same tool, and check if you've understood the concept. So in the beginning, your shapes may come very wonky. That is totally understandable, but be flexible enough to try different holes, different ways of working the script, change pressure, usually we tend to make very narrow shapes. We don't make very wide shapes. So try to let your hand move very to create graceful, large shapes and be lavish.
Dizzy, my God, what you've got another whole book stored in there.
This
When
is
you
what
publishing it?
No, this is not mine. I'm just this is just my study or whatever.
Yeah, but you've done those pages.
Yeah, I'll make it for our class.
this is
Uh,
something you should if you do
Really, such a
book like that,
treasury.
yeah.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll keep it. I'll make it for all of you.
Oh my
Okay. So send me your pictures if you have any special problems. But remember, the only trick is to maintain your angle. Don't shift your angle. You should be fine. And give it a day or two of practice for you to be able to get the shapes right. One day you get it, it's smooth sailing from there. You never unget it again.
I
Okay.
think one of the most shocking things is like when you put it on paper and you see the amount of ink that's flowing out of the pen, and you're like, oh my God, why is so much ink flowing out?
That is true. We're so used to a monoline writing that
Ah,
it's
yes,
like a lot. Hmm.
chalo.
Chalo.
Have a good
Okay,
weekend,
so
everybody.
I
Happy
will
Holi.
happy
Happy
Holi.
Holi, Ritika. Are you playing?
No, I have an exam on Tuesday. That's
Oh
why
gosh.
I won't play.
Chalo, bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.